All right, we are recording. Judy, take it away.
Thanks everybody for joining us. Just a couple housekeeping things. Please use the chat box for questions during this webinar. Have everyone sign the sign-in sheet if you have people in your room with you, and make sure then you send the completed sign-in sheet to Laisha Thomas. Her email address is on the bottom of that. We are recording this for playback later, and so Carrie is going to have everyone auto muted, so we won't have a lot of background noise in the recording. Melissa is a Microsoft certified trainer, and she wouldn't be that if she didn't know her stuff, and she knows her stuff. The Seattle chapter is pleased to be able to host her again with this webinar on taming your Outlook inbox, and she's up there, it says Outlook management tips. But Melissa, take it away.
Thank you, Judy, and welcome everybody. I'm so glad you could join us today. So this is a perpetually interesting topic. It's probably one of the most popular topics I get requested to teach because we're in this all the time. If you're using Outlook for email, you practically live in this application. And it has some interesting, I should say, side effects. Because it is so easy to manage a whole lot of email there, we tend to leave it there. And so we end up with a mess. So we need some cleanup strategies. Some of you very well may be zero inboxers, and for you, you might pick up a couple of different ways of organizing your email, but you're already at a situation where your inbox is empty every day. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the zero inbox methodology, it is that an email either gets delegated, sent to somebody else to get handled, it gets handled by you, or it gets deleted. Now, occasionally it will also get filed, but the filing is a meaningful decision. So it's not a decision that gets made lightly. Filing is an action taken. So we're taking an action, we're forwarding it to somebody else, or we're deleting it. And the idea is at the end of the day, you go to your Outlook inbox and there's nothing in it. I'm not a zero inboxer, so that should make you feel a little better about it if you're not either. I'm always trying for that, but I don't always get there. Okay, so we're going to talk about cleanup strategies, things that we can do pretty quickly to get rid of a lot of stuff that we don't need. And then we'll give you certain strategies for staying organized going forward, different ways of thinking about your email, filing and organizing your email so that it lends itself to staying cleaned up. And then we'll see a bit about leveraging Outlook data in Excel and what we can actually use all of this information we're storing for. So hoards happen, they just happen. If you look in your inbox for a message and it takes you longer than a few minutes to find it in search because there's so much stuff in there, you're probably a hoarder. If you look at an email and can't decide whether you might need it for something maybe one day, and just because you're not sure you keep it, you are creating an email hoard. Just in case is the most popular answer. That's how it happens. That's how we end up saving too much stuff. It's easy to keep, and we are satisfied with the answer just in case. Now, when we start talking about the risks associated with it, that just in case really demands a more complete answer. So let's talk about the obvious one, the one that costs you a lot of time every day, is looking for stuff. If there's less stuff, you find it faster. So we're spending a lot of time looking for things, so that's not a good thing. We may also be exposing our organization by keeping information long past its policy requirement. So if you have records retention policies and information security policies, you may be circumventing those by keeping information in your email. In a room, in a live room, when and I always say it, I want anyone raising their hands, but I always ask how many of you are 100% sure there are no credit card numbers, passwords, IDs, anything that can be used to perpetrate an identity fraud sitting somewhere in your email. Now, I get a lot of uncomfortable shuffling and people looking down at their laps, and nobody wants to, look me directly in the eyes, because for a lot of folks, that's just a fact of life, especially if you're an administrative professional supporting others. Chances are you have, at one time or another, had somebody, whether you requested them to or not, send you a credit card number, and it's like, please don't do that, But anyone tries to send me something like that, it's immediately deleted, and I go to the server, we delete it off the server, and Lord knows where else it is on their own information, but if I'll email them back, please don't, you sent me this, the email's been deleted, please send me another message without this information that included all that other great information you had, and it's deleted. So it does and can expose your organization to regulatory infractions, to violations of information security policy, and it certainly makes your job harder when you're trying to find something. So there's a lot of good reasons not to keep it. When you consider the risks, if you've ever been that person who was able to, that one day, find that one obscure email from 4 years ago about a place where you all had a lunch meeting, and you found it, and you got to be the hero for those 5 minutes, ask yourself, was it worth the risk of keeping all of that email just to be able to find that one? And chances are it wasn't. So hoards happen. So how do we get cleaned up? These are some of my favorite strategies for getting cleaned up. One of them is searching for likely suspects. So if we come out to one of my email inboxes here, let's use this one. Some of my favorite searches are the word lunch. I don't know if I'll find any in here, but searching for the word lunch. If you go out there and search for the word lunch, I found one. And hit delete. That can go away. Let me figure out what's going on here. Cannot be deleted, was either moved or deleted. Access was denied, because it hit delete the first time, it just didn't refresh. So you can search for likely suspects. I saw somebody ask for presenter, and I'm not sure why. I'm going to have you chat with Carrie. So Carrie, if you want to pick up that conversation. Okay. Sorry about that. So searching for likely suspects. Think about all of the things that make an email a likely suspect for deletion. If you go to after hours networking groups, look up the words after hours or networking group. If you get reports all the time that you never read, newsletters, if you go through and you search the word newsletter, that may give you something interesting. So if we go through and we search for newsletter, you might find mentions of newsletter.
Melissa, we can't hear you. You kind of faded out and then disappeared. All right, I do not hear Melissa. Looks like you dropped off. Okay. All right, hang tight, guys. Technical difficulties.
Let's try.
Ah, gotcha.
Okay. All right. It didn't look like it disconnected on mine.
Okay, it just dropped off your audio, but I can hear you now, and I presume everybody else can hear you.
All right, I'm going to leave chat off and visible here, so if it happens again, I'll see it quicker. Okay. And just let me know we can't hear you, and I'll see if there was anything I can do on this side. Okay, very good. All right, great. So search for likely suspects. Think of those things that you can search for that would represent emails that you could delete. Sort, group, and delete. Sort, group, and delete. So if we come into an inbox, let me go into one that won't get me in trouble here, like that one. If you do a sort, group, and delete, it means you're sorting by something, like by from, and then on the View tab, going to expand collapse, and collapse all groups. Now you have a list of emails that you can say, well, you know I don't need any email from this sender. I can just do Shift Delete and it's gone. And I just deleted 2 emails at once. So looking for email messages in large groups that you know you don't need. All the ones, any from internal projects, you know, Shift Delete, gone. You can get rid of those very quickly. So you've grouped them. You can also do it, let me do this one, Shift Delete. I'm cleaning up my inbox while I'm teaching. Pay no attention to me. So you can also do this by subject. So you click what you want to sort by, and on the View tab, expand collapse, collapse all groups. And then you are able to delete large groups of email here. So I'm trying to say, take a look here. There we go, and hit delete. And those are then all gone. All right, so sort, group, and delete. You can also do this by date. So if you do receive, this is normally how you look at your email. You can do collapse all groups here as well and look at your older email and see if there's things you need to keep that way. So search by older. And another clever search that you can make is by size. If you sort by size and then do expand, collapse, collapse all groups, you can actually see email messages that are carrying large groups, large attachments. So I sent a bunch of email. I had switched back and forth between computers. So I had an exported PST. There's probably receipts and something else in here. Here's some other large emails, OTT proofs, Office Technology Today proofs. So you can go through here and you can delete those. If you get into email jail, that's when the IT people call you and tell you your inbox is too big. Sorting by size and getting rid of those email messages are some of the easiest ways to get quickly out of email jail. Now I want to share with you something. Let me do it with, let's do it with another message here. Let's do it with an old proof. All right, so if I save this attachment, save as, and I save it out to a desktop, I'll put a folder in here, OTT proofs, and hit enter there and save there. Now that email message, let me come back out here and show you that it's on the desktop in OTT proofs. We just saved that attachment out there, okay? Now I can remove this attachment from here and retain the email. Now what's more is in the, let me go ahead and pin this. In the actions, and that's what this, in the move group, there is an actions button, more move actions. You can actually edit the message. Now watch what I'm going to do here. I'm going to go grab a link, and that's shift right click, I believe. Yes, shift right click gets you this, copy as path. So not just a plain right click, but shift right click gets you copy as path. Now all I have to do is come over to my email message. I'll get rid of these little double quotes that I don't need, and this becomes how I find that document later. So attachment moved to, and there it is. So when I come back in and I take a look at this message, let me get my shortcuts right here. I can copy that. Let's go back to anything here. Let's go back to documents. I can copy that path here, and it will take me to that document and open it. So I can get rid of the attachment out of the email message. Now, many of you, I hope, are probably on something like Office 365, or at least your files are being stored up in the cloud, and you are more and more using links rather than file attachments to send around. Now, I know the platforms can make it a little bit difficult sometimes to share outside the organization, and then we still end up using a regular attachment. When attachments go back and forth, you have the capability to basically unattach the attachment, store it someplace where you're going to find your attachments, and then put the path back in, or even a link if you sent it out to OneDrive or SharePoint or Google Drive or wherever you save your stuff, and then captured a link and edited the email and put the link back in there. You'd be able to get back to the file that way and get it out of your inbox. Okay? That also gives you the capability to control access, because if you put the link there and that email inadvertently gets forwarded to somebody who doesn't and shouldn't have access to that file, just because they have the link doesn't mean they'll have access. They would actually need to have access to the document itself. Okay, so sort, group, and delete, and removing attachments are other ways to get things cleaned up. Save that. And let me come back out to this one. You can, of course, sort by category, received, size, flag, and then you can add something else if you want to put another column in there using the field chooser, and we're going to cover that in a little bit. One of the easiest ways to get a lot of cleanup very quickly is to use Conversation View. This became available with Outlook 2010. It has been available forever in Gmail. That's how they've just been serving us up Gmail for 8 years, 9 years now, quite a while. So people who are willing to use Conversation View in Gmail sometimes get a little hesitant to use it in Outlook, but it's the same thing. What it does is it shows you your messages grouped by conversation, so you're seeing one line per conversation unless you expand it. So if I come out here to this inbox, that's unread. Let me come out to the inbox. And let's see if we have any conversations in here. We'll sort by date. There we go. You have to sort by date in order to use Conversation View. So let's see how we do it first. We go to the View tab. In the Messages group, in Conversations, you choose Show as Conversations. That's that little checkbox right here. I'm going to uncheck it for a minute so I can show you what the process is. So first need to be sorted by date, then check the checkbox. If you're in an older version, this may just say all folders and not all mailboxes. So we're going to choose all mailboxes here. This is Office 365 or the latest version. And now we begin to see these little arrows here where you can see that this is one conversation, and when we click the little white arrow, it expands to one level, and then it can expand to another level. So there are email messages going back and forth here, but we're seeing it grouped by conversation. And I don't know if you noticed, but my sent mail is also in this. Now the cool part is with Conversation View, you now have a couple of tools. The first tool you have, let me make sure I haven't lost anything here. The first tool you have is on the Home tab. The Cleanup button, where you can clean up a conversation. So I don't know if any messages will get cleaned up here, but let's give it a shot. We're inside a conversation, and we'll do Cleanup Conversation. And here's what it tells us. All redundant messages in the conversation will be moved to deleted items. Redundant messages. That means if a message is completely, in its entirety, included in another message, because that happens when we do reply, If the message is in its entirety included in another message, it will be deleted. So I'm going to hit cleanup here. It looks like we shortened it up a couple. If you notice, this one stayed. Even if this email message itself, the message was wrapped up in another message, it would never go away because it has an attachment. So anything that makes it unique will cause it to be kept. If somebody goes in and deletes everybody else's response and only puts in their own, that will be kept by itself until somebody replies to that one and their messages get tucked up into somebody else's. So you'll see split threads there, that if you and I reply to different messages in the same thread, you'll see a split thread. You'll expand it more than once. But when you hit cleanup, anything that is redundant will be removed. And that's a good way to get rid of a lot of email messages. Another tool that you have available to you is ignore. Let me pick up a message here. I'll do this one. Let's assume this is not a single message, but it is actually an email that people have done a lot of back and forth with. Okay, so let me give you the scenario. It's for internal spam. Okay, so that means you and I are working on a project together, and we're always exchanging email messages. And then yesterday, my cat had kittens, and I feel the need to send pictures of these kittens to everybody. So now your inbox is blowing up with kitten emails because people are hitting reply to all and they're saying cute kittens, or they're hitting reply to all, my favorite, reply to all, and saying take me off your list. First of all, don't hit reply to all unless you absolutely have to. That should always be a conscious decision. Reply to all should not be the default. But the thing is you and I still need to work together. So you can't ignore my email, but you can ignore that conversation about kittens. Let's assume this one from Box Team is about kittens. I can right click or go to the home tab and the cleanup in the delete group and hit ignore. So that would be this guy. That is ignore conversation. Control delete is also ignore conversation. But I'm going to do right click, ignore. Now here's what ignore is doing. Ignore ignores the conversation. The selected conversation and all future messages will be deleted. Okay? This message itself and anything else that's in your inbox about it, plus any other messages that come in, will all get deleted. Okay? Now I'm just expanding the chat box here and clean up conversations again. Okay, thank you very much. I'm glad I expanded the chat box. When you added the path, how did you edit the message? Let me go back to Judy's there. So when you open up a message here, let me go back to one of these, and it's going to be a from, and it would have been from Michelle. And let's look at Michelle's message. Or we can do this one. Let's do another one with Michelle. Okay. Let me go full screen here, so maybe we can expand the buttons as much as possible. It's in the move group, Judy. It's in the move group. Here it is, more move actions. Now this is the most current version. You might just see an actions group and an actions button, but you can come here and edit the message. And that's where, well, you could have removed or saved the attachment before. So we'll do, I don't want to print it. That would be crazy. Let's don't print it. Oh, let's go back out here. All right, let's do this one more time. Message. Bear with me, guys. I zigged when I should have zagged. Let's close this up. Let's try this again. All right. So we went to the move group, the actions button where we're going to edit the message. We can save the attachment someplace else. I'm going to save it out to where I saved it before, which was the desktop OTT proofs. And now that it's saved, I can remove it. Okay, now with this removed, I can go out to where I saved it. So that was desktop OTT proofs. This was a shift right click to get copy as path. It's also in the ribbon somewhere in Explorer, but shift right click works on most versions. Copy as path. Come back to this message that I'm editing. And paste it in there somewhere. I just get rid of the double quotes because they're not really helpful at this point. And what you can do when you need it again is you can just copy and paste. Let me go back to a different place here. Copy and paste the link up there, and it will go through and it will open that file that you attached. You can also, I believe, make it into a hyperlink, but I don't want to do that for this one. Okay, so let me come out and close this one. So yes, we want to save it. All right, the move widget, I think that was via the move widget in the ribbon. Right, so it's in the move group, it's in the actions, and I think they just changed the name of it, but there is, in the move group, there is something called an actions, more actions button. And the cleanup conversations, you bet. So once again, we're going to go to inbox here and make sure that we're in conversation view. We're not, we have to sort by date. We can see these little white arrows here will show us conversations. To clean up, you can go to the Home tab. You're looking for a button that says Clean Up. I wonder if they put it on the right click. I don't see it on the right click. So it's a cleanup button and cleanup conversations. Now, it doesn't mean, and it did, it got rid of one message in there. Now it's reduced everything is in this one message in that thread now. Okay, I'll try to keep my eye on this chat box now a little bit better. Let me just kind of put it off to the side a little bit here, and I'll try to keep an eye on it. Okay. So that's conversations view, home tab, delete group, and then clean up. You can clean up a conversation. You can clean up your whole inbox and all folders. That will get rid of all redundant messages as well as anything that carries an expiration date. And then, of course, you can do ignore for internal spam messages that you no longer want to participate in the thread. Those will go. Those will never hit your inbox. Those will go straight to deleted items. Okay, they go straight to deleted items. You can rescue a message from deleted items. So if we ignore that conversation, we had something go to, I forgot what mailbox it was in, but we'll assume it went into this one. Let me go find my deleted and see if I can spot that one. There's deleted items. So we see the messages. So if any of those were ignored, you could just do a right click and turn off the ignore flag, and those messages would come back into your inbox and the ignore setting would go off. Okay, so those are some ways for you to get cleaned up. Now I have SDA to thank for this slide. When I was out on the East Coast working with another chapter out there on the East Coast, their IT guy stood up in the middle of training after we were talking about deleting and how email is backed up and how it's archived and all that good stuff. And he stood up and he said, I want everyone to do an IT trust fall. And what he meant was he wanted everyone to delete an email that was at least a week old, if not older, and watch him get it back. And get it back faster than they could possibly maybe find it doing a search. So knowing how IT backs up your email and how they intend for you to retrieve messages can help you keep your inbox clean if you know you can get it back. And ask them if you can try it out. Ask them if they can retrieve a message for you. So I know that everybody always kind of rolls their eyes a little bit at this, but if you don't know how IT is backing up email, how long and how far back they keep it and what their process is for retrieving it, if you don't know that, go know it. That is required information for you to do your job. In fact, I believe that one process should be in everybody's onboarding information. What to do if you delete an email or you've deleted an email that you need to retrieve. You aren't the only ones keeping email. So keep in mind, an email message may be in the sender's inbox, or in the sender's sent box, it may be on another server, it may be on your backup servers. So there's always more than one copy of one. You don't necessarily need to keep it in your inbox for it to be retrievable. So that's your homework. If you don't know how IT is backing up email, go find that out and share it with your colleagues. Maybe bring them in to do a lunch and learn to share with you how these things work. So those are some easy strategies to get rid of things. I get the most bang for the buck, to be honest, on all of this stuff, searching for likely suspects and sort, group, and delete. Those are the ones that get rid of the most email for me. And I'm usually sorting by person or by subject. And then I can get rid of sometimes 20, 30 emails at a time. So once you've gotten things cleaned up, and don't try to do it all at once, by the way. Set aside some time. Set aside 15 minutes a week or 10 minutes a week or even 5 minutes a week. And for those 5 minutes, do your search for likely suspects, sort, group, and delete, conversation cleanups, ignores. Do all of those things. Delete your deleted items. There's something. Delete your deleted items. And that's how to approach it. A lot of times if you go at it all at once, mistakes are made. I've had it happen to me. I've had it happen to other people. So go at it a little bit. Decide how many messages sounds good to you that you should have in there. Zero's great, but if zero's not practical, then what number you're willing to live with. Okay. Let's talk about staying organized. Now, this next piece of information about archive will apply to some of you, but perhaps not all of you. The real purpose for archive, it's got a little bit of trivia here. Way back in the beginning of Outlook, it became very apparent, because this is a database-based application, and databases become corrupt, that the level of activity in this database called Outlook was going to mean that from time to time you could expect it to become corrupted. If you've been at this for a while, you've lived through a corrupted inbox. It's corrupted because it's a database that is too active. There's too much stuff coming in and out of it, and it just eventually craters. Archive was created as a sort of hedge against that. So it enabled you to take messages that were old or older and set them aside in a separate database called a PST. Some of you work with multiple PSTs. I'm not a fan of that methodology, by the way. It's like, it's not solving the problem, it's shoving the problem into another PST. So anyway, so what archive does is creates one separate PST that mirrors the folder structure of your main inbox, so that when you move something to archive, it goes into the same folder name. And this way, all you're keeping up top in your main inbox are your current things. The older things are in a different one, the things that you access less. So we don't have to re-index them all the time, and we don't have to keep going after them all the time, risking the inbox. Now, computers have become more powerful. Inbox corruption doesn't happen quite as often. If you want to use archive to set older things aside, but you're afraid to because you're not sure how it works, a lot of you see that prompt come up every so often. Do you want to archive your old items now? And you're like, no. And the reason you're saying no is because you don't know what happens to them and you don't know how you'd get at them. So let's dispel all of those mysteries here. On the File tab in the Options group, on the Advanced category of options, so choose Advanced, you'll see a button that says Auto Archive Settings. So you're in charge of how often auto archive runs and where the email messages go. So mine is set to run every 30 days, not every 2 weeks. It does prompt me before auto archive runs because I might be doing something on my computer that's very machine intensive and I don't want that to conflict with it. And I can determine what happens when archive runs. So I can show the archive folder in the folder list. That means it'll appear down here, kind of beaconing there in my lower left, so you'll see it. And then what is old? So old for me is, I'm set this one to 24 months. It's 2 years. So if it's older than 2 years, it's old and it can live in archive. If it's within the last 2 years, it'll stay there. And then to permanently, I can always choose to permanently delete items that are older than 2 years. If I uncheck that and just say move them, it'll move them to an archive. Otherwise, it will simply delete them. And I have mine set to delete because I have backups of my critical files. Okay, so you're in charge of what happens in auto archive. The reason I said this may apply to some of you and not all of you is because your organizations may have set up their own archive process. If they have, that's an even better reason for you not to keep all of the email. There's no reason for you to keep it. They've got it. Just find out how they intend for you to retrieve it. Okay. Finding things. So once we kind of get this clutter cleaned up, finding things should be a little easier. Let's just talk about search for a moment. Let me close up this dialog here, and we'll come back to this inbox. We have so many to choose from. When you do a search, so we're going to say, I'll look for the word box here since that's a recent one, and it finds all of the email messages. Finds all of the email messages with the word box. Okay, so that's how to do that. You want to clear that search, simply press the escape key. Escape clears a search. So let me do that again, box. Okay, I can also do it for anything sent last week. That's 3 of them. Sent to a specific person, categorized in a certain way, has attachments. So these, as this name implies, are all of your refiners. And there are more refiners that you can choose from. Something that's in the body of the email, a receive date, a retention policy, all of these things can be used to search for email. So you do have some quite advanced properties to search. And you can always go into search tools and hit advanced find and use all of these tools to find email. One thing I want to point out to you here, anytime you do a search, look at all of the locations mine is searching. My SharePoint lists, all of my inboxes, and archives. So you don't have to worry about an email message going to archive because when you search for it, search is going to find it in the archive as well as your inbox. So it's going to search all of those locations. Likewise, if you've got a really big archive and you know for a fact it's in only one of these places, go ahead and uncheck the other ones for right now and just search in that one location and you'll find that information. Related to search is search folders. Now, this is one of my favorite features with one of my least favorite names because a search folder is not actually a folder at all. If we think about folders, we think about a location where you put something in. A search folder isn't a location, it is a saved search. So if I come down here, you're going to find search folders. Let me go ahead and collapse my favorites for a minute. If you come down here and you find search folders, they'll be below your outbox. There's one built in here that's here for urgent. And so there's a search folder there. You can do a right-click, new search folder to create a search that will be saved. So I'm going to say mail from and to specific people, choose, and I'll choose Let me put my own email address in there. Should find something, hopefully. So this is in one of my other inboxes, and it didn't find anything there. So let me go find out an email address from here that I can use. Let me do no dash reply zoom.us. Let's try that one. Right click, new search folder, from and to, choose zoom.us. Oh, no reply, wasn't it? No dash reply at zoom.us. And it found all of those email messages. So for those of you who support more than one person, okay, if you support more than one person, consider setting up a search folder for each of the people that you support. What that enables you to do is file email messages wherever they belong, in whatever folder they belong in, by project, by department, by report, however you normally file it, and don't create a second copy of that email to file in a person folder. Instead, create a search folder. Now, if we take a look at this search folder, you can see that there is a column called Inbox. So let me quickly take one of these and put it in a different folder. I'm going to put this in, let me make a new folder here. I'll just call it Zoom. So I'm going to come to a Zoom email, and I'm going to drag that to the Zoom folder. And when I come down here to do my search folder for Zoom, you can see that some of them are in a folder called registrations, some of them are in a folder called Zoom. So it's actually showing you what folder these things are actually in, okay? So it doesn't matter if you have it email from one person in 7 different folders, you have email from them and floating around in 7 different folders. When you run a search folder on their email address, they'll show up regardless, and it will show you where, what folder the email is in. So any new messages with that no reply sender. So this is a good question, Judy, and this goes back to a search folder not being a folder. It will go to the inbox, and it will go to whatever folder I drag it to. It will appear in the search folder because the search folder is not actually a folder, it's a saved search. I know that's kind of like, it can be a really hard concept. If they had called it anything else but a search folder, this would be easy. But they called it a search folder. It's not a folder, it is simply a saved search. So new messages don't go anywhere different because you create a search folder, but they will appear when you click that search folder link. I hope that's a little bit clearer. If they had called it don't think of it as a search folder, think of it as a saved search that you can run over and over again. The email lives wherever it shows up and wherever you move it, and it will also be listed when you click on your saved search, aka search folder. Okay. Another great way to organize your email is to use categories. Now, there are a number of different ways for you to use categories to order your email. In fact, one use for categories is they sit in place of a folder. Now, for those of you with deep hierarchical folder structures, I know you're thinking, how on earth would that work to have no folders to put something in? Well, it actually works quite well. In fact, if you're familiar with Gmail and the concept of labels, that's how Gmail works. There aren't actual folders. Things simply appear by label. So let's take a look at this one. I'm going to go back to the inbox here for this guy. So we can go to the inbox here. If I were to categorize something, let me categorize this email, right click, categorize, and all categories. Should really clean these up, but I'm not going to do that on the fly. So if I apply a category to it, like, I don't know, let's see what this one is. So a webinar. So let me go ahead and create one here. This is a new one, and this has to do with webinar recordings. We'll leave it purple. Click OK and OK. So if I sort by subject, and I make all of these, let me sort by category first. View, expand, collapse all groups. So now I can see that webinar recordings category. Let me go under here, and I'll put, look for the word recording. There we go. So if I take all of these email messages and make them right click, categorize, all categories, webinar recording. Now remind you, they're in the Zoom folder right now, but I'm going to categorize them. I can search now for all email messages of a certain category. So categorized, I can't get in this guy. Okay, then I have to go at that another way. Just bear with me, guys. I want to do something from the inbox here. So we'll do a right click, all categories. We'll categorize this as a webinar recording. Click OK. When I sort by category and do a view, expand all, collapse all groups, I now have a couple of email messages in there, right? Now, it doesn't matter what folder they're in, okay, because it's going to show you the folder too. It simply shows you that they're categorized. If I also choose to categorize this one as urgent, it will also show up in the urgent category. So the thing about categories is it will show it to you in any number of groups because you can assign multiple categories to a single message. So just like in Gmail that you can assign multiple labels to a single message and it will appear as if it exists in two folders, those aren't exactly folders, they're just metadata like categories. So many people are moving to a metadata methodology and away from folders to make things easier to find. So everything stays at the inbox and then everything is viewed by category. If something belongs in the recordings category but it's urgent too, I don't have to decide which folder to put it into. I just give it two categories, and when I sort by categories, it appears in both places. Now, there are other uses for categories. Let me share with you some strategies I've used in the past or know that other people use. You can create categories for priority. So let me come out here to a different inbox. We can do a right-click, categorize, and we can make it now by close of business. We can give it to unresolved user issues. We can give it a category 1, 2, and 3. We can, call it an opportunity. And then what you're doing is sorting by category after that, and then working your categories as your work process. So let me see if I have any in here, collapse all groups. Right, so I can decide I'm working on conferences now, so I'm going to work on this one. Then I can decide, okay, now it's time to work on meeting requests, and I'll work on this one. And okay, I've got to do a webinar. Here's some webinar portal instructions. I can find the one that I need. So you're categorizing by work type to help you then sort what you're doing, keep what you're working on in front of you. Now, to create a category, you just saw me do it, but I'll do it again. So right-click, categorize, all categories. So there's nothing that says new category yet. You have to go to all categories. Then you are going to click on the new button, and you're going to give it a name. And you'll assign it one of the 25 available colors or no color at all. It'll still sort by category, it just won't have a color. So I'll give this one gray. If you want to, if it's one you use all the time, you can assign it a shortcut, a Control and F key shortcut if you want to. I'm going to skip that part and click OK. And by default, it will check it for you. So when you click OK here, it has assigned it that category. So now there is the box team category that I just set up. Okay, so it's just go to categorize anywhere you find it. You can find categorize in a few places. You can find it here. You can usually find it up in the tag section, categorize button up here. So you can use all of those or both of those to categorize a message. So categorize by priority, categorize by work type, categorize as a replacement for folders. And remember, you can assign multiple categories, you can clear all the categories. If there is an upper limit of categories, I don't know what it is, I haven't hit it yet. You do only have 25 colors and then no color as your option for how it appears. But you can reuse a color. Now the other place, and I'll just take a jump over here to calendars, this is the other place I use categories extensively. Pinks are conferences, orange are webinars, gray ones are local Chicago area on-sites, dark purple ones would be off-site training or on-site training at an out-of-town location. So I can spot on my calendar where I am, what I'm supposed to be doing, and when I'm going to be out of town without ever looking at the detail. So when someone says, are you going to be in town the week of the 19th, I can say I'm gone on the 20th, and if I know that's out of town, it probably means I'm leaving on the 19th. So your categories can help you in your calendar, they can help you in your email. And if you are trying to move away from deep folder structures, consider categories as your alternative. One final word about deep folder structures. If you find yourself doing a lot of double-clicking, 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 double-clicking to find the message that you're looking for, that is a sign that your hierarchies aren't working for you, they're working against you. The thing about it, and especially those of you in this profession, you like things organized, you like your structure, and when you look at it, it looks organized and structured. However, in use, it's very cumbersome. Just saw another question pop out here from Tracy. Is it awful if we run out of category colors? Nope, just keep using your favorite color multiple times, Judy. And for Tracy, are the mail and calendar categories separate lists? No, they're not. So you will see your calendar categories along with your mail categories. One thing you can do to separate that, so let me do it on this one. Right-click, categorize all categories. What you could do for those things that are, well, first of all, I do underscores in front if I need for them the category to flow to the top. So I always see it sorted to the top by close of business or now. You can do a C underscore for your calendar categories and an M underscore for your mail categories to help separate them in the list. So when it shows it to you alphabetically, you'll see your mail categories and your calendar categories. So it does use the same list, but you have some facility by using an opening initial and an underscore to separate them in the list of categories. So they're not separate lists, they're the same list. Okay, so that's categories, one of my favorite topics. Another way that you can organize your email is the use of follow-up flags. Now this one always gets away from me, so I'm probably not the biggest follow-up flag cheerleader, but there are times when this feature is very useful. Most people are going to their inbox, let me get back to that guy, and they're simply flagging an email message. So Let me move the chat box out a little bit. So these little flags here on the right, people are just flagging the email and putting that as a to-do item. By default, it just gives you, it's due today. Let me come over here and click the left click. There you go. So now it's due today. What you should be doing is right-clicking it and choosing the due date. I need to get this done tomorrow. I need to get this done next week. Or I need to give it a specific due date. Has to be done by August 30th. So I got it today. It's due by August 30th. So that has a specific date on it. That's how we should be using it, so that we will see those tasks pop up in our calendar views. If you go out to calendar and you're using a week view, let's do a view tab here, display task list, and that will show the task list on the right day so that you'll see it down here. So if it's due on a Thursday or a Friday, if we go to the end of the month on this guy, you'll see that one that is due at the end of the month, okay? So you should be right-clicking your flag to set the due date. Don't just automatically click the flag and assume, okay, yeah, I got to do that, I'll hit the flag, because then you got 200 items flagged. You don't know when they're due. There's no apparent priority to them. They just all have a flag on them. So you can filter for flags. If you go up here to email and you say show me flagged items, you can filter for those. I'll give you a little tip here, because these won't necessarily sort in any particular order. They'll sort in like date order, but not by flag order. You can do a right click field chooser and put the due date in, and then sort this by due date, and it will give you everything that's due in chronological order by due date. Let me go over that one more time. So we have our email messages. We're going to search for flagged email, but we want to see it by due date, otherwise all the flags are just kind of stuck together. So we're going to do a right click, field chooser, and we're going to drag due date up to the field chooser and sort by due date. So now we have our flags in due date order. So that's something that a lot of people fall away from follow-up flags, because there's no great way to get them in order other than to look at your to-do list and tasks, which means you have to leave the mail view, which I don't like to do. So you can go ahead and just search for them and then add the due date column to the view and sort by due date. Okay, let me drag this up again here. All right, now save a custom view. So if you have a view that you like, so we have a view of flagged, and we have added the due date field. Do that one last time. If this is a view that you like and you think you'll use again, on the View tab under Change View, you can do a Save Current View. Follow-up. Make it a little bit different. So now that follow-up view is always available to you by choosing it right here. So whatever view you're in, let me go back and hit that. If I go to my follow-up view and then hit my search for flagged, it will automatically show my due date field in here. All right. Now, you can also set flags and reminders for recipients. Can you set a due date as a default column? Yes. So Tanya, that save current view and make your view default. So let me go back to that real quick. If you were to do a right click, not a right click. So hang on a second. Let me go back to view, change view. You should be able to make that your default view. And I thought it was on the right click, view settings. Bear with me one second. If I don't, I will definitely research it after the fact. I believe you can. And Tanya, so let me, it's a default column. Let me make sure about that. I think you can save current view as new view or save current view, and it should hold it. I also believe that if you put it there, it won't reset unless you reset it. But let me get a better answer for you after the program, and I'll send that out through Judy. So one of the other things you can do with, oh good. One of the other things you can do with your flags is set a flag for a recipient. Now, when I say that, I get some giggles around the room when I'm teaching live, but it's really, think about this for a second. So you've typed your message, it's going to whoever, you go up here to Follow-Up Flag and you click Add Reminder, and now you have a second section here that says Flag for Recipients. And you can add a reminder so that when you send them this message, it automatically creates a follow-up flag and automatically sets a reminder for them. Now, if you feel uncomfortable about it, let people know when you've asked them to do a thing. So I'm sending you this email because I need for you to give me information or complete this report or take on this task or whatever it is you're asking them to do. And you let them know, I just wanted you to know I'm setting a follow-up flag for you in this for the day before the due date. So if the due date is the 30th, we're going to set the reminder date for the 29th. 4 p.m. is a bad time for a reminder. So we'll make that at 8:30 a.m. so they know the day before it's due that it's due on the 30th. And when you do that, and you actually see the information up here, let them know. If you're uncomfortable with doing it, let them know so that you can both keep an eye on this task because it's important. Or not tell them. If you don't tell them, they'll probably think they set the reminder themselves. They may not remember that they didn't set a reminder themselves. They're just like, oh yeah, well that's important. You're right, I should do that. And it will never occur to them who set this reminder for them. Okay, so you can set a reminder for a recipient. Let me go over that process one more time. We're going to create an email message, new email. You're going to compose it, and before you send it, you're going to add a reminder. You can set a due date, a flag for recipients, and set a reminder date for them. So it's due, the reminder is going to go the day before, and it will go at 8 a.m. 9 a.m., good enough. And that's all there is to it. And then that is set for them, and they'll see their reminder pop up the day before. You know, a lot of folks that feel uncomfortable about setting reminders for other people because they kind of feel like that is, I don't know, above their pay grade, insubordinate, or any of those things. You'd be surprised if you open up the conversation how many people would actually appreciate that because they're busy too. And you can't always be on the phone calling everybody for everything that they need to get you. And this is just an extra help to make sure things get done properly. Okay, so that is follow-up flags, categories. Let's talk rules. I'm going to bet most of you have rules of some kind or another. There may be some of you sitting around these rooms shaking your heads going, I don't even know what a rule is. And if that's true, welcome to the majority of Outlook users. After all these years with Outlook, it is still less than 5% of all Outlook users use filtering rules, and they can be very, very useful. So we'll introduce you to that concept, the basics, and then we'll show you 3 types of rules that would be really good if you put in soon, because that could help you keep things organized and clean, like for meeting accepts decline, social media postings that you get emails about, reports that you get every day. So let's talk about a basic rule first. We'll get to the sweep strategy stuff in the beginning. Let's talk about a basic rule first. Let me sort by received. And let me do an email for this one. Right-click, rules, create rule. This is a basic rule dialog. I can say all messages from IAAP approved programs or subject contains this information, or sent to me only, sent to a carbon copy, so sent to me only or not sent to me only. I could be part of a group. Okay. Then what do I want to do about it? I can display it in the new item alert window. We'll talk about that in a minute. I can play a sound. Normally don't recommend these. Or I can move it to a folder. And I can select that folder and have it go in a new folder called IAAP Programs and click OK. Every now and then thinks I'm asking about movies, which I'm not. This one happens to be going under Office 365 MC, which is not really what I want. Let me put that up here and make a folder called IAAP Programs. There we go. That's better. There, now it's its own folder. Okay, and OK. And that's it. If I click OK here, it's going to give me the option to run it. It's going to come out here. It's thinking. What it's actually doing right now is, it says it's not responding, but everything says it's not responding these days. It's actually going up to the Exchange server in the cloud because I'm an Office 365 user, and it's attempting to write that rule up there because that's where my rules live. So I click OK. It's trying to communicate with the server up there. Hope it'll come back. And then it will ask me if I want to run it now. Here it comes. Taking its time. It's still looping. Interesting. Okay. There it is. And run the rule now. And click OK. So the rule is now stored in the server, and every time a message comes in like that, it will go to that folder. So that I'm using for messages I don't necessarily have to read. I can just have them go off to a folder, and they may become a sweep folder. We'll talk a little bit more about that sweep strategy in a second. So that is a basic rule. You can also do things that are a little bit more involved. That would be an advanced rule. Let's look at that one. Just right-click on any message, Rules, Create Rule, and click the Advanced button. So we kind of get there the same way. Now what I'm going to walk you through now is how to set up a rule to get all of your accept meeting requests, decline meeting requests, and tentative off to a sweep folder that you can review and delete. Because guys, that accept meeting request has value to you for the nanosecond it takes to record that that's an acceptance. And after that, it has no use to you whatsoever unless it has a message in it. And we're gonna talk about that in a second. So your declines, you might want to know about your declines. Your tentatives, you might want to know about your tentatives. But really, once you know about it, you don't need these things anymore. You can delete these, and it still holds your tracking information. So how do we get rid of them? All right, so we got into our advanced rule. And just before we go too far and you take too many notes, this is in your handout. So the steps I'm about to go through for accepts, declines, these are those, and they're in your handout. So let's walk through that. So we're going to go to uses the form name form. If you check it up here, you have to click it down here so that you can complete it. Check, click, and complete, whatever that completion dialog might be. In our case, for accepts, declines with choose forms, it's taking us to this screen where we're going to say we want to choose our forms from the application forms in Outlook. We want to use accept, decline, and tentative. Now you don't have to do all three. You can just do accepts if you want, or just do declines. I'm going to put all three of them in there and click OK. So that's the condition. Now we have to decide what action we want to take. Well, we can move it to a folder. So we're going to check, click, and complete it And in this case, it's just selecting a folder. Now you can create it here using the new button if you don't already have one. I already have one. So what do we want to look for? Anything coming in using this form. If it finds it, what do we want it to do about it? Move it to the accepts declines folder. But we're going to specify an exception. Remember what I said? Its value to you is only in that nanosecond unless it creates a message. Well, now we're going to go figure out how to detect if it has a message. So it's going to be except, I always have trouble spotting this one. There it is. If the body contains specific words. So we check it here, we click it here, and now we're going to complete it here. Here are the specific words: A, E, I, O, U, Y. So just the vowels. You can put all 26 letters in if you want. But basically, if there is any message except the standard accepts decline thing, it's actually going to roll back to your inbox. This rule stops working and that email goes to your inbox. So from now on, if you see an accepts decline in your inbox, you know that there's a message there for you. I'm going to click next here. I can choose to run it or just turn it on from here forward. Either way you want to do it. I'm going to hit cancel because I already have this rule. So a basic rule, right-click any email, select rules, create rule. You can use a basic rule or an advanced. In advanced, we specify criteria, actions, and exceptions. Now, I want to go back to the basic rule for one thing. I said we were talk about this display in the new item alert window. Many of you are still living with email coming up to, let me go see if I have any questions here. Can a filter be applied to messages that are auto-archived? So if we go back out here, let me answer this question before we move on to that. And I go to archive, I can still search and filter here. So I have all of these to filter and refine with. So the answer to that question is yes, Tanya. Okay, now the new item alert window. Most of you are living with that little thing that pops up in the lower right-hand corner. That tells you have a new message. So let me come back out here to this inbox. Okay, so if you go to File Options, and on the Mail category, take a look down here to Message Arrival. When a new message arrives, what do we want to do about it? All I have on mine is to show an envelope and show an envelope icon in the taskbar. This is all versions now, so all of you can get rid of those annoying pop-up messages. It comes by default with display a desktop alert, I believe. So you can uncheck that and it will just show you the envelope icon in the taskbar. Now you're like, but I get important messages down there. Okay, so you can set up a rule, right-click, Rules, Create Rule, to display items from Stacy, for example, displayed in the new item alert window when you get an email from Stacy. So not everybody, just Stacy. Now that's going to pop up in a window like this. If you want to just have it show as a desktop alert, you can do it this way. Again, squinting at this screen, I know it will show up there it is, display a desktop alert. And that will show up in the lower right-hand corner. The new item alert window will show up in the middle like your meeting notices do, like, oh, it's time to go to a meeting, that one. That will show up in the middle, or a desktop alert will show up down here. So you can turn off desktop alerts for everybody and just turn them on for the people whose email you care about getting an alert on. I think that desktop alert was, or the desktop alert was wonderful when we were only getting a few emails. I don't know about you, but I'm getting about 250 email messages a day in any one of 4 email inboxes. So I don't need to see a little pop-up every single time I get a message. Okay, so again, here are the steps for your accepts decline rule, so you can set yours up. The action can be moved to folder. For those of you who never look at those accepts, your action can be permanently delete. So it won't even just go to deleted items. It will actually be permanently deleted if you want to. So you can play with this. This is not a hard and fast rule, but you can play with this if you want to. Another way for you to take quick action on your messages, clean up that inbox, is to use something called quick steps. The easiest quick step is a move to folder quick step. If you have Outlook Desktop 2010 or beyond, you have quick steps. Here is what a quick steps gallery looks like. Yours might look a little different. It might be wider, but this is what that looks like. Do I have this offer on? Yeah, it's in the right way. So you'll see, let me actually get rid of some of these. Better way to do this is to go into my Manage Quick Steps and reset all of my defaults. Let me do that. Okay, so by default, you'll have a Move to Folder quick step that will show the last folder that you used. You can actually open this up, and if there's a folder that you use more often, you can change that. So we'll call this one Other Folder. And let's go down to my other inbox. There it is. And do a new folder. And we'll just have this one sent to bear with me, guys. That's why I don't like folder structures. We'll send it to Zoom. And we'll click OK here. And give it a name. Back in the day, a move to folder would automatically take on its own name, but we're specifying it now. Okay. And we'll say OK. And now that quick step will move anything I choose to go to Zoom. So if I go to webinar registration, I can go ahead and click on Zoom, and it will go right there. It's a single click. And you might be saying to yourself, well, what's the big deal, Melissa? You just click and drag an email to a folder. Absolutely correct. 2 points about that. Number one, have you ever accidentally dragged a folder to the wrong, dragged an email to the wrong folder? Number two, for all of you with deep hierarchical folder structures, do you have to do double click, double click, double click, double click to get to the folder you want to drag it to? Well, if you have a deep folder structure, you don't have to necessarily use that one. So here is inbox, and I think I do have one where, yeah, just so there we go, the one we did before. So if you're having to double click down, you can set up a quick step that goes to that deep level folder in a single click rather than having to, come back up here, rather than having to do that double click, double click, double click thing. So move to folder is the most common, but there are more quick steps. So if we go to the dialog box launcher here, that's that little arrow in the lower right hand corner, we can create a new quick step, either one of these templates, like a new email to, for example, and we'll call this A team. And I'm going to direct messages to, let me do my alter egos in here. And okay, so I have a new email message to them. Click finish. That's okay. Let's make a new one. I don't, oh, duh, hang on. There we go. That's better. Okay, so now I can hit finish and OK. anytime I click that quick step, it automatically addresses an email to those 2 people. This also works with distribution groups. So if you've created a contact group, you can also set up a quick step for that contact group plus a few people, or that contact group minus a few people. So you'll expand it and then delete the people you don't want to send it to, and then that becomes your quick step. You can take this a little bit further. So if I do edit the A team, maybe I only send this when it's time to do a team meetup. So I'm going to do show options, team meetup. It's that time again. Please get your reports together and meet me in the conference room Friday, 4 p.m. because everyone loves meetings at Friday at 4 p.m. Actually, they go pretty quick because nobody wants to be there late on a Friday. So if I click save here and now I click on that AT message, it's actually written the message for me. So quick steps can do a lot. They're kind of like rules, except with no criteria. So you just decide when to use it. So if we set one up, for example, to do a reply, we can go to the dialog box launcher. We can go to new. Actually, let me do it this way. The new quick step, custom. That gets us to the same box, just another way to get there. And we'll call this recruit reply. And we can say that this action is a response, so it is a reply. I'm going to show my options here. I'm going to let it pick up the subject from their email as well as the recipient. And in here, it's going to say, thank you for sending your information. Please let us know when you are available for a phone interview this week, or whatever else you're going to send. Now, I might choose to send after 1 minute delay so that I can go to the outbox and put in an attachment or put in some links or do something like that. I'm not going to do that this time. I'm just going to hit finish. So if I were replying to an email, let me actually reply to one from me. Okay. Let me get one I can do that with. There we go. Don't ask about the subject line. That was doing something else that was really weird. Okay, so let me hit my recruit reply, and that writes the email message as a response regarding, and it's from me to them. So you can do any kind of a quick step that is a response that you write all the time. And if you sit here and think about it for a minute, you know that you're doing that. You are writing the same types of responses all the time to particular types of emails. Thank you for your request. It's being forwarded to the proper department to be addressed. They'll follow up with you within 7 days. Whatever those things that you write all the time, you can put them in a quick step and have the quick step write it for you. Now, in addition to email messages, quick steps can also do a meeting request or a meeting request. So we're going to go to options here. We can specify who it goes to, the location. Now, this meeting request isn't quite as robust as going to your calendar, doing a new one, doing all the attachments and all that stuff. This is just a basic meeting request, but it will set one up as a quick step. So if you are not wanting to or not able to do recurring meetings with people, because I'm not a big fan of recurring meetings. It takes up space on the calendar for things that we don't even know if they're going to happen or not. So if you instead set up a repeatable meeting as a quick step, then you can quickly set up that meeting each and every time you need it. You just click it, and then you can put whatever else you want in that meeting message once you do it. Let me set one up here real quick so you can see how that looks. And let me go to options. There we go. And show options, our meeting stuff. And subject is our meeting, whatever we would title it. And maybe the location is always the same, conference room A. And automatically send after 1 minute delay and hit save. So now if we hit that one, it'll bring it up. We can change the information about it. So we haven't sent this meeting invitation yet. Good. So we can put all the attachments, do everything in it, and then hit send. So you can do a meeting request in a quick step as well. Send a folder, replies, mark something done. You can categorize things in a quick step. You can do just about anything in a quick step. And the difference between a quick step and a rule is a rule you have to know the criteria. In a quick step, you just take the actions. Okay, one of the most interesting things I ever did was export my email to Excel and then start looking for patterns in the types of email I was receiving. I did this a few years ago to determine what I got asked about most in email from people who I've taught in the past. Was Excel the hot topic? Was Outlook the hot topic? And so what I did, I'm going to walk you through the process part way. I've already done this, so I didn't have to wait for it to export. But if you do File, now in 2013 and forward, it is File, Open and Export, Import, Export, and Export to a file. You're going to do a comma-separated value file, choose which folder that you want to export from, and then give it a name. Now, I've already done mine, and it looked like this. Now, I've hidden some columns, so I don't have some email addresses in the clear here. So I've hidden CC, I've hidden from and to. But this is these are the rest of the columns that come in. So I have it by subject line. This column here, this very skinny column, is actually the body of the entire email. It's already in there. So let's look at this one. So this is actually looks like a long link in there. I can take wrap text off and so it doesn't become huge, but you can actually filter and sort. So if I do this, if I say filter for Excel, it will filter down all the emails that had to do with, well, this one had the word, had excellent in it. So let me say text filters contains Excel space. See if that's better. No, it still took in the word excellent. So, but you can filter for your email. You can sort it by who you get it from, look at it by date. There's actually data. All of that information in an email, every single field can be exported to Excel. Another exercise I like to do every year is to export my entire calendar out to Excel. So we would just switch over to calendar here, File, Open and Export, Import, Export, Export to a file. Next, we want comma-separated values. And next, and I'll do this calendar. It needs the name. Next. And which folder, so if you can choose if there's an additional folder and hit finish. Now when you hit finish, it's going to ask you for a date range. If you want to export everything, then just give it a really wide date range, like 1997 through 12/31/2024. I mean, give it a wide date range and have it export everything. Now, I'm not going to do it here again because it takes too long, but then you have all that information. For those of you who are really good at Excel, I want you to think about how you set up your calendar items, what information is in the subject line, and what you can do to make that data usable in things like a pivot table. So you could, if you categorize things, you can pivot it by category. You can filter it by who you're meeting with. You can do date math on the start and end times to determine how much time you're spending in some of these meetings or on some of these topics. So don't forget that you can take your data from Outlook and put it in Excel. If you're using 2013 and beyond, here are your export instructions. 2010 or earlier, well, 2010 is this. 2007, I think it's on tools, but I'm not, yeah, 2007, tools, import, export. So no matter what version you're using, you should be able to find your steps here. One of the things that you can do with exporting items out of Outlook, I'm going to do this in tasks. So let's start a project. So this is a project here. Let me do this from the beginning. Control-Shift-E for a new folder. There we go. And this will be book project. And in our book project, I'm just going to click here to put in a bunch of tasks. Draft outline, refine outline, write manuscript, get cover art, get illustrations, compile, publish draft, publish final. Anybody out there who's ever written a book, it's a whole lot more complicated than this, but we're just going to put these tasks out there. And the method I used was just to come up here and click into add new task. I haven't got any detail in there at all, just the tasks themselves. Now, if I want to get the start and due dates, first I would have to add start date in here, and then I would have to start thinking, well, this has to go before this, and this has to go before that, and wait, that's going to change the order. You could certainly do that here, but what you could do instead is export this to Excel. Comma separated value file. There's the book project, and we'll call this book. All right, and finish. Again, it's going to ask you for dates, just like with anything. So we're just going to say from 1/1/2019, because we really haven't put any dates in yet. 12/31/2019. And click OK. It's taking all the tasks out. Let me come out to the desktop file. Open. This PC. Desktop book project. Okay. So when I open this up, all I have so far are the tasks, start, end, and days. I'm going to go ahead and make this a little bit bigger. And I can say, well, I'm going to start this today, and it's going to take 5 days to do that. And then refine outline can start after that. That's going to take about 2 days. Writing the manuscript is going to take about, let's say, 45 business days. This is all business days, by the way. The cover art, 10 days. Illustrations is going to take 20 business days. To compile it is 5 days. Publish draft, 3. Publish final, 2. So that's the number of days the tasks are going to take, and this is the start date. Now, the reason I didn't fill any of this other stuff in is so that I can have Excel tell me what those dates are. So equal, and I'm going to use a function called weekday. Sorry, workdays. Workday. It wants the start date and the number of days, and if I had holidays specified, I could then also tell it what the holidays, what range the holidays were in, but I'm just going to do work days. And let's format this as a date. Now, this one can begin when this one is done, so let's say +1, and then we're going to copy that formula down. Assuming all of these are consecutive tasks, they follow each other, I can just copy that down and know that if I begin it today, it will be done by December 23rd. If I started it already on the 1st of July, then I can expect to be done by November 11th. So this gives me all of that great information. So I can then save this as a CSV with all its values and reverse the process and do an open and import, import, export, and then import a file from another program right into a task list. And it has the dates and everything. So there are a couple of different ways that you can do this import export using Excel and Outlook to leverage both these tools to make quick work of getting project task lists together, of analyzing where you've spent your time on your calendar, analyzing the types of emails and who you're getting the most emails from. It's also really an interesting thing to be able to discuss at review time, where, you know, who's taking up most of our time and what are we being requested to do. Okay, I see another chat out there. Can you yes. So yes, we can export tasks. So you can export any Outlook item, because remember, Outlook items are just, it's just database entries. It's just like an Access, which you can export Access to Excel. So it's just a database. Okay, so I want you to think about everything that you've seen today, from cleanup, which is searching for likely suspects, sort, group, and delete, using conversation cleanup, setting yourself up for success with categories, analyzing how you're using what kind of email you're getting, and deciding what your own critical mass number of items is and trying to reach that. So set up sweep folders, like for accepts, declines. Set up sweep folders for reports that you don't always open. Set up sweep folders for your LinkedIn email, for any Instagram email, Twitter email, any updates that you're getting. Set up rules for those. Set up sweep folders for those. Don't keep this stuff forever. Let it go out there once a day, once a week. Go take a look at it and sort by subject. If anything looks interesting, go read about it and then get rid of all these email messages. Don't forget that if you get rid of a LinkedIn email message about a post to a group, that post to a group is still in LinkedIn. The post didn't go away because you deleted the email. So I like to peruse the subjects, delete everything I'm not interested in, look at the things I am interested in, read them, and then delete those email messages because they're already still in LinkedIn. I'm going to go back, Tanya, and answer that question about the CC in just a minute. So you decide what your critical mass number is. If you're a 0 inboxer, go for it. Set your critical mass at 0. Mine is 500 email messages. I get about 2 to 250 emails a day, so that's 2 days worth of email. I can live with 2 days worth of email. So that's where I try to head. Now, instead of keeping email, you have other options. You can record the information in the right system. If you're using a CRM of any kind, you should be able to store message information into your CRM. You shouldn't need to keep it in your inbox and log it in the CRM both. It should be in one place or the other. If you're using OneNote, I know one of my friends at Booz Allen Hamilton, most of what she does for the 3 people that she supports is set up meetings and events. So when they send her that initial email, Virginia, I'd like for you to set up an email, set up an event for, there's all the details. She immediately sends it to OneNote, and that is using her, let me go back to mail here. That would be a send to OneNote here, this button here. It would send it to OneNote 2016, and then you can begin working that project in OneNote. So you don't have to keep it, and then you can delete it from Outlook. So you can send it to OneNote. You can click and drag messages. So let's go here. I can click and drag a message. Trying to find one that's not going to get me in trouble here. Am I in my archive by any chance? It sounds like I may be. No, just in the inbox. All right, so let me take this this message and drag it to a task. And now I've set up a task with that email message and can delete the original email. So you can click and drag anything to anything else. So create tasks, send them to OneNote, put the information in the right system, save your attachments off to the right locations, put links back in your email. If you adopt even 1 or 2 of these processes, you're going to start to collect less email. Tanya had a question for A Team. Can we set up a CC? Let me go out here. Let me do a right click, edit A Team. So if I have show options, add CC. So there's the CC right there. And you can also add a BCC as well. Sorry, I skipped over that one when I responded to Judy's question, but you can absolutely add a CC or a BCC. Okay, so remember, before you begin something new, you have to end something old. Most people don't like endings. During my vacation, since I travel for a living on vacation, I usually stay home. And so I was watching a lot of movies, and I noticed at the end of the best movies, I really want to know what happens after the ending, because people don't like endings. We don't like for things to end. But in order to do what you need to do to get your Outlook back into control, you have to stop doing something that you're doing today that is hurting you. You have to stop keeping all your deleted items. You have to stop keeping email messages just in case. You know, you have to make a conscious decision about where and how you're going to organize things so it's easier to find what you need. So decide those things that you're going to begin to do differently and which habits you're going to abandon. And just be brave about it. And your email, your Outlook world will become a lot clearer. All right, I am ready for any additional questions that pop up. And by the way, since it's SDA and since it's me, everything is on the table as far as Microsoft Office, so feel free to shoot any conundrums that you have out into chat, and I'll be happy to answer those too.
Okay, Melissa, there is one in the chat window there.
Oh, I missed that one. Not automatically scrolling down. Do you have a minute to show how to show messages? Oh, yes, you bet. Yeah, you bet. It's one of my favorite features I didn't include in the regular curriculum. All right, so you saw some of that happening with messages from Julie Perrine, I believe. There you go. So you see her messages are showing up that way. Let me come out and do this in my Sawbuck Seminars inbox. And let's see how we do this. So let's pick messages from Twitter. That should be interesting. So these are coming from info@twitter.com. So this is done beginning in the View tab, in View Settings, in the Conditional Formatting button, and you're going to add a conditional formatting rule. So we're going to call this Twitter. We're going to have Twitters appear in bold and in aqua. Good enough. And maybe bigger. And we'll click OK. So now we know what we called it and we know how I want it to appear, but we haven't yet told it what it was. I hope it was in info@twitter.com. Info, if it's not, I'll go back and correct it, at twitter.com. And that should be a from. Yep, there they are. So when you're clicked on it, it appears black, but when you click off of it, you'll see that color. So here were those steps again. It's in view settings. It's in conditional formatting. You can add a rule. By the way, little trivia, that's why your unread messages turn out bold, because that's already set up as a conditional format. But we're going to add a rule. We're going to give it some name. We're going to tell it how we want it to appear. We'll do something crazy. And then what condition? Now, the condition we set is from a particular person, but you could actually do this with words in the subject line too, or even more advanced criteria to have it turn that color on. I'm going to hit cancel because I don't want to see anything that crazy. So those can be used, conditional formats can be used to allow you to easily spot things from particular people. I know many admins who have a different color setup for each of the people they support. My personal first real use of conditional formatting was when my son Zach was in the Merchant Marine and he got radio signal, which is how at that time they were able to send email only intermittently. So when I got an email from him, I wanted to know it. I wanted to see it right now. So I had it appear really big and in his favorite color, and that's how I knew I got an email. So you can use it for specific circumstances. It is by the folder, by the way. So these get set up by the folder. When you're done with it and you don't need it anymore, in view settings, conditional formatting, you can find that rule and delete it, and it will not work anymore. Okay, it'll just, everything goes back to normal at that point, so you can see it. But it is by folder. Don't forget that, so you won't see this in every folder. I don't think there is a designation for that, but let me double check before I say no. I'm just going to call this multiple folders. Font that, good enough. Condition. So where I am, none, anytime in, no, more choices. It's not actually giving me an opportunity to change the mailbox or change what folder it's in. So it is only by that particular folder that you can set up a conditional format. Okay, let me go back and see if we have another one. Can the Quick Steps team email function be used to create emails? Yes, absolutely. Here is the difference between, thank you, Tracy, for that question. That was a good one. So this is Quick Steps versus templates. A quick Step does not allow you to use rich text. It does not allow you to use attachments. It doesn't allow you to do anything except basic text. If you need basic text, that's perfect. I wouldn't go any further than a Quick Step. However, if you need attachments, you need rich text, HTML, email, anything like that, a template is still your best option. We're hoping to get that kind of functionality in Quick Steps soon, but I haven't seen them announce that as something that's being added to the Quick Steps feature. Great question, though, and both things are useful. For those of you who've never created a template in Outlook, didn't know that you could, you can compose an email, you can put an attachment in there, we'll just put that in there, and then you can do File, Save As, just like you would do in any other program, and change this to Template. Do not change where it's going to save it. And hit save, and then each time you use that template, so I just close this one now. So file, on the home tab, new items, more items, choose form. user templates in file systems. Excel extract was the one we just created, and that would allow us to send this brand new email message out to somebody else. So they serve different purposes. A quick step's fine for email that's text only. You still need a template for rich text or attachments. And any other questions? These are good questions, guys.
There was one.
Yep, I just saw it from Tanya. Changing from Outlook, is there a multi-user MS Access version? Changing from Outlook, is there a multi-user MS Access version? Interesting question. Outlook can be made multi-user. However, I want you to be very careful. They are kind of pulling away from supporting Access as an application development platform. So you can have an Access database and you can have multiple people using it. That's today. You can absolutely do that, and people can, as long as you put it where people can access it, they should be able to use it. My concern with Access is that if you develop too much advanced functionality in Access, one of the biggest problems with Access is it is not generally 100% upward and backward compatible. So Microsoft is little by little bit pulling away from Access as an application development platform in favor of you using other SQL-based Azure type data stores. But there is, all Access should be multi-user. Tanya, feel free to write to me if there's something you're trying to do in Access but that you can't do, and you believe that's because it's not multi-user. If you write to me directly, and I'm putting my email address out there in chat. Oops, that's the wrong one. Let me give you the right one. There you go. If you guys have any questions after the program, always feel free to write to me. I'm happy to answer questions by email. As Judy's heard me say before, you'll know if you become annoying because I'll send you an invoice. I've never done it, so I'm usually happy to take questions over email. That's how I think up blog posts. I just take your questions. And actually, that's how I develop Sawbuck seminars, just from the questions I tend to get most from people after programs and that I see out in social media. So I'm always happy to take those.
Okay. Any other questions for Melissa? We got just a couple minutes left. Now's your chance. Melissa, those are great tips. Thank you so much. I spend a fair amount of time in Outlook, but I learned quite a bit too. So these are great.
That makes me happy.
Yeah. All right. It's pretty quiet in the chat box.
Thank you, Wanda. Thank you for coming. Carol. Thank you, Carol, for coming.
Okay. All right. I'm not seeing any questions. All right. Well, we can wrap up then if there are no questions.
Thank you very much for the invite. It's always a pleasure working with you guys.
Yeah, Melissa, thank you so much. These are great. I always learn a ton. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you, Melissa, for presenting. This was great. Attendees, we'll send out a recording link in a couple of days. Give me a couple of days to convert it. Thank you so much, and I hope you guys get to enjoy the rest of your afternoon. All right. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.